Hello there, and welcome back to this Projects and Enterprise Java course. So today we're going to be continuing our what are we making? A social net our social network application. Forgot what we were making there. And today we're actually going to be configuring our database. So it's always an important part when you're configuring your database to configure it properly. And so that's really what we're going to be doing today. So let's go ahead and go to our terminal. There we go. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can actually see what I'm doing. And let's go to our MySQL console. There we go. Enter the password. Whoops, nope. I don't have a password here. There we go. All right, there we go. So we're in. It's okay. So we're in now. Let's create a database. Create database. Social network. There we go. Now let's use social network. There we go. For some reason, we don't have to put a semicolon after use social network. After the use thing, I noticed quite a while ago that you don't actually have to put a semicolon there, but you do have to put a semicolon after everything else. So that's kind of weird, but that's, I guess, how the SQL developers decided to make it. Anyway, so now that we're using social network, let's go ahead and create our user table. So let's create table users, and let's actually go to our user class here, and here we can actually see how we're actually going to have it. So we're going to have a ID, username, and password as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Whoops, terminal. So ID int, user. What is it? How do we have it here? It's name, name varchar 64, password varchar 64. All right, there we go. I think that's it. And there we go. All right. So now that we have this saved, in theory, we can actually close this up. Let me actually, I'll just keep it running, but I'll just hide it. And now let's actually configure Hibernate to actually connect to the database. So to do this here, what we're going to need to do is, first of all, add this Hibernate configuration tag. And then here we're actually going to be configuring everything that we need. So let's first of all configure a session factory. There we go. All right, in session factory, we can now do property name equals hibernate dot dialect. And let's configure it to org hibernate dialect my SQL dialect. There we go. Now I actually do have all these values on a screen here to the left of me. Since before I was doing when I actually configured these frameworks, I was actually just doing it from memory, and in result there were a lot of mistakes that I had, so I had to go back and re-record. So now I'm actually doing it with a screen here on the left with the actual value that I need to insert. Since remembering generally what pretty much what they're supposed to be is very simple, but then remembering exactly what they're supposed to be, it's surprisingly difficult. I mean, I've used Hibernate for years, but I can't really remember it exactly. So yeah, there are just errors that pop up if I do it from memory. This is going to be com MySQL CJ JDBC driver. So MySQL actually changed it. Before it was just com MySQL JDBC driver. Now it's com MySQL CJ JDBC driver. And this is the Hibernate connection driver class. All right, there we go. Okay, now let's do property. And name is going to be Hibernate connection URL. JDBC, MySQL, here, localhost, and social network. There we go. Okay, and property, name Hibernate, connection, username, root, property, Hibernate, connection, password. And it's just going to be empty since I don't actually have a password here. All right, there we go. All right, so now we have Hibernate configured. We can actually go ahead and run our application, but we aren't actually going to have user mapped. So essentially right now, Hibernate will not see the user mapping. So I'm going to show you exactly why this is a problem in a second here. Let's actually go ahead and create a new package here. Eduonix social network. Let's see what's going to be. It's going to be DAO. There we go. And here let's create a new class. This is going to be user DAO. There we go. Okay, and here we're going to have public void user DAO. There we go. And then public void close. And you'll see what these methods do in a second here. As well as, what else? We're going to have a public void insert user. And then here we're going to have a user. There we go. All right, now let's go ahead and import user. Let's see, this is going to be, there we go. All right, so now that we have that done, what we're going to go ahead and do is create two objects here. So we're going to have a private session factory, and then a private session. There we go. So those are the two objects. So the session factory is actually going to be used to configure Hibernate and actually create our session. And then the session is actually just going to be used to, actually communicate with Hibernate and insert things into the database and get things from the database as well. So on the constructor, what we're going to have is the factory is going to be equal to new configuration, new configuration dot, let's import configuration here. There we go. And this is just a class that's going to be, that's actually going to read our hibernate.cf config.xml file and actually create a configuration class from that. So that's how it's going to work. All right, so now let's do configure and then dot build session factory. There we go, and now we can just do session equals. Let's actually not do session equals. Essentially, the reason we're not going to be doing this, now that I think about it, is because if we have too many sessions open at once, they can actually get, how could I say this? Interfere with each other. So if we have an object, especially since actually what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using mapping, one too many, I think. We're going to be using mapping. And so if we have a user that's, essentially taken out in one session, then it can cause interference with another session. So what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be closing and opening each session in every single method. And so that it will actually, we can do it so that, well, actually, let me actually go ahead and actually do it like this so that I can show you exactly what the problem can be and how we can actually fix that problem. So session equals just factory dot, it's open session. There we go. All right, there we go. So now that we have this done, let's go ahead and in the insert user here, all we're going to do is we're just going to do session dot save user. All right, there we go. And then here in close, we're just going to do session dot close. And then also factory dot close. All right, and then also here in insert user, let's do session dot begin transaction, and then session dot commit. Oh, no, it's dot get transaction dot commit. All right, there we go. Okay, so essentially we have a DAO class already, and so now we should, in theory, be able to, here in our social network.action, in our login action, we should be able to, let's just make it so that whenever we submit a user here, we just do user DAO equals new user database access object. What seems to be the problem? User DAO cannot be resolved to a type. It is right here. Social network dot DAO dot user DAO. Oh, okay. I guess I made user DAO private for some reason. Because maybe I didn't probably specify a public classifier here. That's odd. That's odd that it did that. Okay, let's pretend that never happened. So now that we have that done, we can now do DAO.save.insert user and then insert the user into there. So now let's go ahead and actually do this. We might get an error here since it doesn't actually find our user, but we might not get the error depending on how exactly Hibernate does this stuff. Let's take a look either way. Let's see, where's our browser here? Can't find the browser. There we go. Localhost 8080 social network. No? HTTPS. Okay. All right, I guess we don't need to port. What? Is it? Is it doing it? I mean, I don't. This is really odd. Okay, localhost 8080 social network. There we go. Okay, so I guess it's working. Anyway, whatever. Maybe I didn't specify this. First of all, HTTP and then www dot. What? So I guess no www dot. Localhost 8080. Okay, there we go. I guess now it works. All right. Okay, so now we have it working. Let's do username. Any password. I typed in utility. I don't know why it made that the password, but okay. And let's submit. All right, we got a null pointer exception here. What seems to be the problem? Where is it? It's right here. Session.begin transaction. It is. Oh, right. Okay, so I added the void there. That was a doofus move. I've been programming for Java for what, like maybe a long time, and I used a void in a constructor. What is wrong with me today? All right, there we go. Now we should be good to go now. In case you were wondering what exactly happened there, I used a void in a constructor here for some reason. I don't know why my brain decided to do that, and so it wasn't actually sensing itself as a constructor, and so in result it didn't instantiate the session. There we go. Submit. All right, there we go. So it's submitted. We got unable to create requested service. Most likely. Okay, I see what's see what happened. We actually configured this incorrectly. Okay, so while we do in fact in fact have it here to the left of me, it doesn't necessarily mean that I can't still make mistakes. Because this SQL is supposed to be all capitalized, I decided to not capitalize it, and so now I'm suffering the consequences of that. There we go. Okay, let's start this up. I believe that now we can actually get going. Server startup times, man. I mean, come on, it's taking too long. All right, at this point, we might as well just it might as well have already auto-filled it for me. Yeah, there we go. Okay, finally, we got an error, but we got a good error. So this is the error that I actually know that it should have actually happened. So to fix this error here, what essentially is happening is Hibernate didn't actually map user, so it doesn't really know that it exists and that it is an entity. So to fix this in our Hibernate config.xml, all we have to do is add in a mapping tag and make the class as com Eduonix social network. It was what model dot user. All right, there we go, and let's close that off. Okay, and now if we restart our server, this is what, a fourth time. Then now we should finally be good to go, and we should finally be able to actually insert it into the database. So it's always good to get an error when you know what the error is and how to fix it immediately. When you're expecting the error, essentially. All right, and now we should be able to finally social network, Arseni, utility. Submit. All right, we still have a an error. So there's a lot of errors in Hibernate. This is odd that we're getting so many errors. Okay, well, this is odd. Oh, there we go. Okay. I am making so many doofus mistakes today. All right, I had a semicolon there. Okay, let's restart. Fifth time's the charm. You gotta do it 5 times in order to actually get it working. Because I was looking at that error and I was like, what can possibly be at line 29? What could possibly be the problem? It turned out that the semicolon could be the problem. That's what possibly could be at line 29. And there we go. So now it finally takes us to our success page. Let's open up terminal. Let's do select all from users. And there we go. ID 1, name Arseni, password utility. All right, so now we've essentially just created sort of like we've essentially created a registration form. Registration functionality in our login action. So this is misleading. We should probably change it to accordingly work. But we do now know that Hibernate works and we got that set up. So the next time we can now use Hibernate to actually set up both our registration and login functionality. In other words, complete our account system for our social network. But that will be in the next episode. In this episode, we've done quite a bit. So we essentially just set up Hibernate. I haven't actually showed you how to actually set up Hibernate in this series. So this is the first time that we're seeing how to actually set up Hibernate from scratch. So without using Spring Boot or just Spring to help us, Spring Beans to help us. So, that was good to see. All right, and so now we know, and we can continue on with our social network application in the next episode. I wish you luck. I'll see you then. Till soon.